Welcome to Canterbury Life. Thank you for joining us today. I hope you're making the most of the World Buskers Festival being in town. Don't forget, it finishes on Sunday night, so get along to all the venues around town, especially in there at Hagley Park. Now on the show today, Jim Nichols is here to tell us about Kite Day and a rare medal for Opus Consultants from the Pope. But first up, Gavin Bishop, recipient of the ONZM New Zealand Order of Merit for Services to Children's Literature, joins me. Welcome to the program and congratulations.
Thank you very much indeed.
Now you have written you've published over 40 books that have been translated into 9 languages, and you've released your first picture book over 30 years ago in 1981. What a career.
Right.
Wow.
It's been a long time.
It has been a long time.
Yeah.
And you've got some of your wonderful pieces of work right here in front of us. What a career that you've had to children's literature. Did you think this is where you would end up?
No. I hope I haven't ended either.
I shouldn't have said ended up. Did you think this is where you would be? There we go.
That's right. Well, I'm not sure. It's not something you ever think about. You know, you just do one book at a time and you think about the next book that you're going to do, and you progress like that. I mean, I've never been one to have a 5-year plan. I've never known what I was going to do in a year's time. In fact, I like that kind of mystery. And somebody once said to me that it would be a good idea to do a series of books, with the same character. And I said, well, actually, I like not knowing what I'm going to do. If I could see a stretch of books ahead of me, that would be daunting, and I think I would lose interest.
You have teamed up with some of the most amazing writers that you could wish for.
I've been very lucky.
Margaret Mahy.
Yes, Margaret Mahy. Although she and I didn't do very much together, we did a book for UNESCO about 20 years ago, but it was a fundraiser, and I don't think it was ever published here. It was published internationally. Wow. But it's only recently that we've actually done 2 trade books, specifically, she wrote them specifically for me to illustrate. And so that's actually the first time we've really seriously worked together on a couple of picture books. And Mr. Whistler is the latest one.
And that is your latest one, so that would be her last...
I think it's her last story. I think it's the last story she wrote.
Wow.
Which is quite exciting.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
Now, going back to UNESCO, why is it that they specifically had you and Margaret write and illustrate for them?
I can't actually remember.
It was 20 years ago.
It was a long time ago, and I actually can't remember. It was just one of those projects that came out of the blue. Somebody probably wrote to me in those days and said, would you be interested in doing this work? I get quite a few requests to do work for charity, where I'm not going to receive any payment.
And how do you feel about that?
Oh, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. I mean, if I think the project is worth doing, and if I think the proceeds are going to be used well, then that's fine. I mean, a Quakey Cat is probably the best example of that.
It sure is.
Where the proceeds went to the earthquake funds, and so far that book has raised $155,000 for charity.
That is...
Which is extraordinary.
That is extraordinary. And you had something to do with that. Well,
I did the illustrations and I gave my royalties to the Earthquake Fund, and so did Diana Noonan, the author. And I think Scholastic gave a proportion of theirs as well. And it was a Christchurch production. It was illustrated here and scanned and printed and produced and distributed all from Christchurch, and that was immediately after the September quakes, when things were sort of a little dodgy but weren't quite as bad as they were going to be after the February one.
I was going to try and reach Quakey Cat, but it's so far away, so I'm just going to, excuse me, I'll try and get it. Here we go. Let's look at Quakey Cat, the book that Gavin is talking about. That might be helpful. Look at that poor cat. He looks so sad. Quakey Cat. So this story, did it help you at all get through the quakes? Because you, just like us, have been through the quakes as well. Yeah. Is illustrating, does it help you get through things?
Not in that sense. I mean, I find illustrating and writing, it's a kind of a passion of mine. It's something that drives me forward. And I'm constantly thinking about what I'm going to do next. And so a job like that had to be done very, very quickly. I had something like 5 weeks to do the illustrations. And normally a book like that would take me, 3 or 4 months, perhaps 5 months. And something like Rats, that would be 6 months because of the detailed illustrations in it. But I had a very short time to do the work for Quaky Cat. And that really drove me on to get it finished. They wanted it finished so they could publish it before Christmas 2010. And they gave 14,000 copies away to school children, and then it went on sale, and it sold, enormously well.
Wow. Children's literature, this is your market?
Yeah, that's my area. That's where I work. That's what I relate to.
Where to from here for you?
I've got another Bruiser book that I'm working on at the moment.
Very
That'll be out this year.
Very cool.
And,
So we should all have a look out for your book. Bruiser 2, is it?
Bruiser and the Big Snow.
Oh, really? Oh, there we go. Another story that Christchurch can relate to.
Yeah, exactly.
Gavin, it's just an honour to meet you and have you bring your books in here and share with us your awards. If we may do that.
You certainly can.
All right, after the break, we catch up with John Craig and Richard Munt from Opus Consultants. Welcome back now from the front page of the Mainland Press last week to the couch here at Canterbury Life. Welcome Richard and John to the program, and congratulations. You have been sent these very, very special and amazing medals from none other than the Pope. Tell me about these.
Well, thanks, Kanita. Thanks for having us on the show. Yeah, look, it's an amazing thing to be recognised in this way by the Vatican and the Pope. But it really comes from the local Catholic diocese people recognising the services we've provided them in their time of need through the earthquake, and before that, really. For 12 years we've been helping with property asset management and design, architecture and structural services for them. And it's just lovely that they've recognised us in this way. We're very humbled by it.
There were 3 of you that won the award. You're missing one of your colleagues today.
Yeah, Nicholas.
Nicholas.
Yep.
So tell me about the involvement that each of you had on this project.
Well, at the time of the earthquake, Richard, Nicholas, and myself, we were involved, with the property side of things. And then when the earthquake came around, there was a huge need for resourcing and staff for inspecting buildings and for I suppose in terms of both the parish side of things and the educational side of the work that diocese do, and that was getting as many feet on the ground to actually go and inspect the buildings.
So of course we're talking about the cathedral on Barbados Street, known as the Catholic Cathedral. So tell me about your involvement from the beginning of inspecting the building and the processes that you went through. I guess you'd be the one that would know that, John.
Yeah, John's the man for that.
A bit of both, because I mean, from September on, both Richard and I were fairly heavily involved with the insurers,
right? Okay.
And the loss adjusters, and inspecting the building, and assessing the damage to the building, along with some of our senior engineers at work.
Kanita, we're very fortunate that we've got a huge team of professionals behind us at Opus, engineers, geotechnical engineers, architects, right across the board. So they've all been involved in looking after such a significant property portfolio that the Catholic diocese have. But undoubtedly the Catholic Cathedral on Barbados Street, a really significant building, and it has required a lot of attention and care. So a lot of reporting and investigation to make sure we're doing the right things there for the Catholic diocese, and they've been quite studious obviously in how they make their decisions.
How did the relationship come about? How did Opus get involved with the Catholic Church?
That's interesting. That goes back, we've been involved with the diocese for 12 years. Okay. We had some relationship with the diocese in Auckland back at that time, and we were introduced to the Christchurch diocese, and that's when I first came on board with Opus and started working with the diocese. So over that period, we've grown the relationship to a very strong working relationship, close. And at the time of the earthquake, of course, we had the whole of the Opus resource behind us to help the Catholic diocese, and that was very important.
I mean, I've heard that none of you are Catholic, but you must understand their faith and why their buildings are so special.
I think that's very important. I think our organisation, Opus International, I think our values and the way we operate, we have a lot of synergies with the Catholic diocese. So we're well trusted by the diocese, and we very much respect the Catholic diocese and what they do. So, yeah, it's very easy for us to work together.
Very nice. Now, these medals, not many of them are out there in the world. So there's 3 now in New Zealand. I believe there are, about 150 throughout the world. So they're not given out very often.
If you look at Wikipedia, it'll run through basically everybody that's ever received one is actually named on the Wikipedia site, and there are something like about 150, maybe a bit more than that, to date.
Yeah,
worldwide.
I want to clarify, I have noticed myself that there are other people in New Zealand that have won the award. There are a few others, so very worthy people, I'm sure. Yeah.
I shouldn't just assume like that, should I?
Oh, well,
I'm a terrible journalist.
But look, we were absolutely blown away and extremely humbled that the diocese would recognise us in this way.
So where's the Basilica at now?
The Catholic Cathedral, the position where things are at the moment hasn't really changed since I think recent interviews with Lance Ryan, the chairman of the trust. Our engineers are working through the various options still, looking at the engineering requirements for a number of those options. And probably in about 4 weeks or so we'll be reporting back to the diocese and the Cathedral Trust along with I suppose a brief report on those on the structural sort of strengthening requirements for those options, and then we expect that not long after that it'll go the diocese and the trust will take it to the bishop for a decision.
Wow, that's amazing, isn't it? It all goes back to the Pope and the Church in Rome. Tell me about this.
Well, that certificate that came with the medal, and it's interesting that it's written in Latin. My name Ricardo in there for Richard, so each of us were a bit surprised by that, but that's very nice too. So it might be something handy if we ever go touring in Rome to have our little medals on us or something.
Indeed.
Might get me into the Sistine Chapel, not have to wait in the big queue. So
that is a big queue, I tell you what.
Yeah.
All right, Ricardo and John, great to meet you, and it's been an honour to have you on the program today. Congratulations on these awards.
Thanks
now
very
here
much.
is Jeff Morton with Lane Neve.
Elizabeth Naser from Lane Neve joins me. Welcome.
Thank you.
And Happy New Year to you.
Same to you.
Now we're going to talk about guarantees. As we said before when we were talking, a can of worms. So what does a guarantee mean?
A guarantee is where you essentially promise to another party that you will meet the obligations and liabilities of a third person if they can't do so. Probably the best known form of a guarantee is when a bank asks you to give a guarantee. So, for example, directors of a company might be asked personally to guarantee the obligations of the company.
Right.
So the company borrows $100,000 from the bank and they put up various securities. Almost 100% of the time, in fact, it would be unheard of for a bank not to ask the directors to personally guarantee the payment of the funds if the company fails or if the company fails to meet its obligations. Trustees of a trust is another one. They're often asked to, well, they're almost always asked to guarantee the borrowings and the obligations of a trust. So they're asked to do that in their individual capacity.
So initially if you're setting a company up, it may be, as you say, $100,000. So they may put a couple of houses up, their houses up as guarantee.
Banks will often ask that if you're borrowing your business finances
Yes.
from the bank, and the directors are personally asked to give guarantees. Banks may ask the directors to refinance their mortgages, so they come in and they hold their mortgages with the bank.
Right.
And that means that if the company fails to meet its obligations and repay its loans, and the bank calls on the guarantors, the link between the asset that the guarantor has personally, their house, and the borrowing of the company is that guarantee. So the bank can move through and possibly sell the family home of the guarantor if all these securities and loans are with the same bank.
Surely. So if they breach their banking conventions or banking covenants, if it goes beyond the 100,000, they can actually take more if necessary, or is the guarantee only up to that limit?
Well, that's a good point.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Most guarantees are all obligations. So that means whatever is owed to the bank, so that's the principal that you borrowed, the interest, what it costs the bank to get their money back, including lawyers' fees if they appoint receivers, if they have other professionals and so
Yes.
on. Because the loan might often be flexible enough to include all of these fees, and
Yes.
certainly legislation allows lenders to take these fees. If you've given an all obligations guarantee, that extends to all of the obligations.
Okay.
So you might have thought, well, I'm just guaranteeing a $100,000 loan. What can go wrong? It can blow out quite considerably. So
Right.
it can become very expensive.
So, okay, in that case, what should you do if you're asked to give a guarantee? What should a guarantor do?
You should definitely take legal advice.
That's a good point.
Yes. So
That's the first step.
Yes, you should take legal advice, and you should find out as much as you can if about the entity that you are being asked to guarantee, because it's not just directors guaranteeing companies. You'd like to hope that they know how the business is running.
Absolutely.
Sometimes you have what are called gratuitous guarantors, and they're people who have no input in the borrowing entity. They have no control over it. They have no connection with it. And a prime example there will be a spouse, or in some cases, the parents of a borrower.
Yes.
And so they're being asked to guarantee the obligations, and they may have absolutely no idea what's happening, how the business is run, how financially stable it is, and that's very important to know before you give a guarantee.
Elizabeth, we've only scratched the business side of it. We need to look at the personal side of it and the smaller guarantors. Perhaps we could look at that next time.
Yes.
Thank you for their time this time.
Thank you.
Right.
Stay with us after the break. We talk about Kite Day. Welcome back. We have had cats, possums, dogs, lambs, and now a pterodactyl in the studio. Jim, you brought your pterodactyl. Pterodactyl. How do you say it? I can't even say it now. Pterodactyl. There we go.
Yes,
Along.
I have indeed. It's my newest kite, and it's one I hope to be flying next Sunday for Kite Day on the beach at New Brighton.
How fun. I love kite. Well, growing up, we had an octopus.
Oh, right. Yes, octopuses are very good.
I've seen those octopus around a lot. Tell me about Kite Day and people getting involved with it.
Well, Kite Day we have once every year on New Brighton Beach. It's organised by Julie Adam, who runs the online kite shop, in conjunction with the City Council Summer Times programme. And most years it works very, very well. It's very, very dependent, of course, on the weather.
Yes.
And we're hoping for good easterly winds on Sunday and some sunshine, preferably. And in that case, there'll be hundreds of kites in the air, and we hope thousands of people coming to watch.
So this is a Kite Day of yesteryear, is it?
Yes, that's a picture I took, probably last year. Yeah.
Look at all those oh my gosh.
That's actually 3 years ago, that one.
That beats my octopus that we used to have.
Those big kites, the big inflatable kites, come from the Peter Lynn Kite Factory in Ashburton, where they actually make the biggest kites in the world.
Do they?
But you wouldn't want to be buying those for your children because they're very, very expensive naturally.
Yeah, what if they accidentally let go of the string?
Well, yes, it would be a very expensive accident in that case.
Jim, I can see my octopus type kite. So they're quite common, are they?
Octopus kites?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Now, those are some of mine that I flew last year at the festival, at the
Very
Kite
cool.
Day. And that's definitely last year's Kite Day. 2 years ago, we had a bit of a washout because we had a very, very strong southwesterly, almost a gale, and nothing would fly. But
it wouldn't fly, even doesn't matter what kind of...
If the wind's too strong or too gusty, then it's almost impossible to fly. That alien...
can we go back to that alien? It looks like he's taking a ride
alien
on
on
the
a spaceship.
Oh,
that was designed by Simon Chisnell, who's the designer at the Peterlin factory. Wonderful kite, but again, priced out of the reach of most of us, unfortunately.
I thought that was just accidental that an alien ended up on a UFO.
No, that's a very, very clever design by
good
Simon Chisnell, and it flies quite well. That's my seahorse. I've actually got 2 smaller ones to go with it this time, so there'll be a seahorse family if things go well.
How cool.
And you can see quite a few people on the beach there. Over the course of the day, we usually have several thousand people come to watch and sometimes to bring a kite and take part.
So tell me how it works. Is there some kind of etiquette when you're on the beach?
Well, the only etiquette is try not to tangle up other people's kites, but it happens anyway. And I would ask dog owners, please don't bring your dogs down on Kite Day because dogs and kites don't mix.
No, they don't.
A lot of dogs get scared when they see a kite being launched or landed, and they'll try to attack the kite flyer, which is not very pleasant. They also tend to pee over people's kite bags and things like that, which is not at all nice.
So leave the dog at home, but bring the kite.
If you've got a kite in the garage, or if you haven't got a kite, come down and buy one on the day. Julie Adam will have her stall there selling kites. I've probably got a few kites in the car if she hasn't got what you want, but I can dispose of. No, I wouldn't be selling him. But I have got kites that I bought in my early days of kite collecting that I no longer fly, and if anyone's looking for something in particular, maybe I might have something there, I don't know. I won't have time though, I'll be far too busy flying kites on Sunday.
Now, I just need to know, if I'm going to take my kite down on Sunday to this event, how can I not get my wires and strings tangled up with anybody else?
I'll just try to find a empty piece of beach, but that won't be very easy. So don't worry too much. The secret is if your kite tangles around someone else's kite, don't pull. You walk over to the other person or to where their kite is anchored, if it's anchored, and when you walk there, you'll find the tangle comes right down to the bottom, and you can just simply untangle it and walk away again. Very easy, if you know how.
Yeah, I was going to say, are there like secrets of kite flying?
Oh, there are, most of which you learn by experience. And I've flown so many kites over such a long time that I know a lot of them, but I don't profess to know everything.
Yeah.
You can still learn.
Do you share your secrets with other people?
Oh, yes.
Oh, good on you.
I'm very happy to.
Oh. So people should really keep an eye out for you on Sunday, shouldn't they?
Well, I think they should just look at the kites.
Yeah, you're too busy flying your kites.
Yeah, the kites are far more interesting than I am.
And you make your kites?
No, I don't.
Do you?
Nearly all my kites are bought from America because things like the pterodactyl here, you cannot buy locally, unfortunately. There's not enough demand in New Zealand for people to stock them here.
Okay. But you can find out more. You've got kites and reviews of different kinds of kites.
On my website,
on your website, jimskites.co.nz. So get along on Sunday, part of the Summertimes Festival between 12 and 3 at New Brighton Beach, south of the pier. Get your kite out. Jim's got a few more kites in his boot if you need another one.
No, Julie will be selling her kites.
Some.
She's got her kite stall there and she's got lots of things for sale.
Good to see you, Jim. Thanks for watching. See you tomorrow.
Okay.